a very interesting person. I think he must be in Chennai, but he somehow has Zoom. So
Yes.
this, you must be faking your IP address or something.
No, no,
We
no,
don't
no.
want to go there.
No, no. One thing is Zoom is not banned in India.
Okay, that's the good news anyway. So Mr. Xavier Raj, Amar Xavier Raj, is an adjunct faculty in National Institute of Advanced Studies, NIAS, in Bangalore. And he is the chief executive at Loyola Inclusive Innovation Impact Center, L3IC in Chennai, India. Welcome, Dr. Xavier Raj. And Dr. Xavier Raj is going to present to us about growth and development of small and medium enterprises. The stage is yours, Dr. Xavier Raj.
Yes. Good evening to all of you. I have a presentation.
Yeah.
Should I show it or? As the presentation is coming up, so the way I'm approaching today's presentation is a little broader, and because my previous speakers have been going into the specifics, so I'm going to be a little bit broader and comparative, and then and also long-term, point of view. So I have quite a few dividers. Those dividers we can skip past quickly. So we can go to the next slide. Okay. So here, maybe the previous slide. So the previous slide, what I was showing is, you see that the number of SMEs across the world. So we just grouped it into regions, and specifically focusing on South Asia. We have quite a few, but not the maximum in terms of the largest number. So there is something that we have to work on it. And so if you look at the South Asia, the table 1, which I had taken it from one of the news article in 2017, Sri Lanka, they say that 52% contribution is from SME to the GDP. But there is always a sort of been a sort of dragging in terms of how do you sort of define SME. I mean, globally, of course, couple of issues, couple of factors are used, whether it's number of employees or assets or investment or RFDI, composition. So, but then of course we need to be realistic in terms of acknowledging that your small, medium also includes tiny and micro. And if you take, say, for example, India, 60 million are micro. So where you have less than around 10 people actually working in. So that's the sort of a scenario where you take South Asia or even to some extent other parts of India, other parts of the world. Now the next one, I just want to highlight here that in terms of GDP contribution, agriculture and manufacturing and the services is more or less the same. You can see that, and Sri Lanka is not very different. Agriculture is in terms of value addition decreasing. That you'll see it in the next slide also, and also in terms of manufacturing. So in terms of gross value added, of course, you have you need to definitely look at it. Look at services. And if you look at in terms of how the SME sector is, industry sector is broken down in Sri Lanka, you will see quite a few manufacturing less than 25%, 25% working in a enterprise establishment, which points to the points to the point that we are actually looking at very micro or very small establishment, which seems to be the maximum in terms of number. The remaining 5,000, which is supposed to be above 25, is a very smaller number compared to this 11,462, which they have, which we see in terms of manufacturing. And also you can see the breakup, and that's it. So now it's challenging time. We know that it is COVID, and we had earlier April, and but this is actually something that one has to look at it like, so there is a low growth rate which is happening. there are fiscal challenges, low fiscal revenues, and non-discretionary expenditure, which is going to take away many of these things, and which will affect kind of what governments can do on the health, education, which will have certain repercussion on how the economy and the ecosystem develops. And public debt levels are high, therefore servicing, and the repayment profile is not very good. And overall debt portfolio indicates some important challenges which we need to keep it in focus when we are looking at where the growth or supporting SME or industry or any activity. So the recent scenario, of course, there's going to be loss of jobs and earnings, and private consumption is going to be low, tourist flow is low, and service sector is going to be affected because of social distancing and export earnings. So all these things are going to be the reality. Next one. So what works? So I just taken one example from Bangladesh. This is one of the articles recently came. So what I'm trying to show here is that there's always, you see a kind of a clustering when it comes to the question of industry, and more so in the context of SME. So many countries experimented with this zoning, industrial zones or cluster formations, where you don't have a sort of government intervention to set up or private contribution or participation in setting up this kind of industry zones. You still tend to see that they sort of come together. So this is one such examples where you see that Khulna, there is a kind of a metropolitan area, how about 5 or 6 industries have concentrated. Now the bigger the next one please, yeah. The bigger the font, what you see in my next slide, are actually the challenges, which I think the previous speakers also mentioned about it. So these are actually the issues which SME anywhere in South Asia and elsewhere are facing. And this is where there has to be some sort of an intervention where people can should be looking at it in the order of priority. It needs to be obviously contextualized. Maybe there could be variable, but broadly, this is what we are looking at it. Next one. Singapore is always shown as a good model of SME because for obvious reasons, you can see it on the left side. So the economy depends, you have 99% SMEs and only 1% non-SMEs. But in terms of say employment or contribution to the GDP, non-SMEs, though they are 1%, they do much higher or well. But then still SMEs cannot be need to be counted in terms of how they are contributing in terms of employment or the GDP and the economic growth So, but one of the things that we need to look at in terms of Singapore is that Singapore or many of these developed economies, they were able to attract FDI. But then of course the laws of the nation or a country may differ in terms of how this can be utilized. So that is something that we need to look at it for Sri Lanka also. Next one. So say for example, I'm just giving 2 examples. Say HCL announced in 2017 that they were going to start something and that they were able to actually start in June. Now, how do we, we can respond? So let's say, for example, they're talking about local ICT and engineering institutions. Now, actually, this can be a business opportunity which, SMEs can look at in terms of setting up centers. Some entrepreneurs. So what we are looking at is a kind of a startup ecosystem, which will be very nimble, agile enough to respond to some of these opportunities which are opening up. So therefore, you increase the number of SMEs and participating and coming and providing the employment. Next one. This is another example. This is also recent where European Union is coming up with a kind of a support. They have a very small component for the tourism, but they're talking about agriculture. But so this is also an SMB sort of segment where existing SMEs or new startups can sort of look at it in terms of how we can do. But the challenge here is the investment is not going to come from this, intervention. So investment has to come from elsewhere, like, where that investment will come. And so these are some of the gaps we'll have to address as we go on. Next one. Yeah, next one, please. Yeah, this is a strategic. Suppose so, we need to be strategic if we are looking at in terms of the SME landscape. Yeah. So yeah, I got it. Yes.
Can take another
so
minute
SMS. Yeah, please. Yeah. So basically, what we need to look at it in terms of, so can we sort of focus the service sector, because that's a sort of an area which is sort of growing fast globally, and there's a demand is going up, and the market is receptive. Investors are looking at more carefully. So why not we look at it in terms of strategically focusing on at least the new startups more in the service segment. Of course, at the same time balancing it with the manufacturing wherever there is a possibility. But there are challenges in the manufacturing. You need the raw materials and the technical and higher investment. So we need to sort of look at it in terms of these aspects and be very strategic. Next one. So labor cost is advantageous. But again, the constraint is the technology sophistication and the skill level of the labor. So that is something seems to be a gap, and we don't see institutions who can do this. So there's also another opportunity where we can look at it. Like next one. So next one. Okay. So FDI is a possibility, but we see that there is a lot of gap. As an outsider, what do we see? We see that 70% of there's SMEs in the informal sector. So obviously, professionalization is a concern. Not visible or not documented well. We don't even know, where they are, how they are, like how they're distributed, what is the size, what are the problem, what is the scale, what is the sustainability, and what is the skill level? Is there any option of scaling them? And what about innovation? What about enterprising? What about competitiveness? So this and all is the issues we need to, as an investor who wants to come and do it, whether it's a domestic or external, is something is not very visible. Next one. So interventions, advantages, of course, we know the political stability and other things, geographical advantage, but intervention could be like in terms of skilling, in terms of, say basically in terms of engineers, managers, and consistency in industrial policies, because unless this is in place, it's going to be very difficult. And the board of investment has to, expand its function to look at in terms of how it can attract a work with others, outsiders and insiders in the country, to see that how the investment could be flown. So this is something which we need to look at it like, I think BOI has to, start functioning, looking at more, closely and see that how it can be done. Next one. So that's where like multi-level collaboration, these are some of the examples I have given, like, so it's an ecosystem where, you need to create an ecosystem, and it is not just a question of making in Sri Lanka. You need to innovate in Sri Lanka. You need to have a scientific excellence, if you need to go forward, like. And this is possible. There are many places it has been done. So even if a little bit of it can be taken up in Sri Lanka, I think that will be very good. Next one. We almost come to the last one. So I just want to, next one. I just want to highlight, see the north and eastern provinces have a lot to catch up. If you look at it in terms of the statistics, overall, they remain the lowest, about just 10% of all GDP is what they are able to contribute so far. So that this is 10 years after, like, so obviously we need to look at it very closely. Yeah, thank you.